Hey, this is Mitch.
This is Keith.
And this is the Layman's Term Podcast, where we discuss, as lay people, not clergy, the previous week's message here at First United Methodist Church in Kearney.
Yeah, and point out that we're doing a pre-hand, so it could change.
Hey, this is preemptive.
This is preemptive
Yeah.
pod video cast.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is our first video that
Correct.
we're doing. We've got 4 other podcasts.
Hi, everybody out there.
So we're gonna focus in on. So we got a new sermon series.
New sermon series, Scatter.
Scatter.
Scatter, Plant, Multiply, Harvest. 3-part series, and I have the privilege of opening this one up. So whipped up a message here, and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Another one from you. I read it. I really like it. So the whole idea is that when you plant something, when you plant a seed, you can weed, you can water, you can fertilize, you can do all that kind of stuff.
All good things.
But the seed's going to grow on its own, right?
Correct. Yeah, our scripture today that we're working with parable of Jesus out of Mark chapter 4. He has three parables in there that relate to seeds in chapter 4, and the middle one, the middle seed parable, we read verse 26. This is what the kingdom of God is like. A man scatters seed on the ground. Night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up, the seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. All by itself, the soil produces grain. First the stalk, then the head, then the full kernel in the head. As soon as the grain is ripe, he puts the sickle to it, because the harvest has come. So, Keith, when have you ever, let's wade on in, right? When have you ever planted seed before, and what was your experience?
Not metaphorically.
Yeah, I'm talking real seed.
Real
seed.
Real deal Holyfield.
Ever had a chia pet?
No, but we have a garden in the backyard. Normally, Shauna, my wife, is the one that goes out and does all that. Of course, I'm there to help till from last year and all that kind of stuff. And the kids really like to help to make the lines and plant each individual seed in
rows,
there.
farmers call them.
Yeah, rows. Cover it up, give it a good soaking, right? So yeah, we do that. We do that every year. We've had a garden now since our first house in Georgia. We've built a big garden there, and so for years and years and years, big fans of tomatoes. Of course, that's not a seed. That's a plant. It is. I know, but we don't seed. We do plants. But then jalapeno.
So what about seeds?
Seeds, we mix stuff up. Cucumbers.
Cucumber, all right.
We tried watermelon, failed miserably. Actually, 3 years ago, we planted watermelons. None of them came in. And this year, in August, we have a watermelon.
Hey, see? God's timeline,
It's
Keith.
like 3 years later, we got a watermelon.
It wasn't your fault.
No, it wasn't.
You planted the seed.
Yeah, we planted the seed. And what's actually kind of cool is that this year, in a different bed, we rotate beds, right? So tomatoes. Those little bugs, I forget what they're called.
The tomato worms?
I guess they can't remember 5 feet away the next year or whatever, so they come back and, whatever.
Not an entomologist.
Yeah, not.
But I think they plant... The larva ends up being in the soil where the adults
that makes sense
matured, so that theoretically, if this was a tomato plant that grew wild and produced fruit, and then at the end of the season that fruit it's designed to fall, decompose, resprout the seed, and grow back up, then their offspring will be right there.
Yeah.
I think that's the point in rotating. Could be.
Yeah, so we rotate.
Yeah.
And one of the other beds from like 2 years ago grew a tomato plant.
From seed.
So yeah, that would probably be my. And it's frustrating.
What about your lawn?
Oh, don't even.
We could get into like a whole lawn care. I probably have more listeners if we talked about lawn care, grass growing podcasts.
I would agree with that. I'm ready to take it all down to dirt and reseed, because we had some work done on the backyard, some regrading, and we put in a patio a couple years ago. And so like half of it was dirt. and we got the really good seed, like really
Oh yeah,
good.
did you go? Yeah, did you go to
know.
the place that we're not sponsored by?
No, I went to a place that we're not sponsored
Yeah,
by.
okay, all right.
Here locally in town, and bought the best bag that I could, and just laid it on heavy.
How do you determine the best bag? The most expensive?
Well, I asked a bunch of questions from some kids.
Okay. Perfect. Which I know in my youth, I was very intelligent about grass growing.
Yeah.
And then I somehow lost it.
Lost
So
it.
really, I
Yeah.
think.
So we laid it all down, just heavy. I didn't even follow the instructions, to be honest.
You're
I just
scattered, baby.
Boom, as much as I could. Kind of roughed it up, get it under the dirt, and then we put hay over it so that the birds wouldn't come in and eat the grass. And that patch of grass is amazing in the backyard, and the rest of it is weeds. So I'm literally ready to like kill off everything and redo that just for the backyard. Like the front yard, I've given up. But the backyard now, we did do a plan from one of the other companies.
Okay.
That like has this like
Well, another
plan,
one that
like you do this
That's
this
the one
month,
I-
you do
that's
this
the
this
one I was
month.
talking
Yeah.
about.
So we started that this year, and they say it takes 2 to 3 years to kind of kick in. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. We started that this year.
And if that company's interested in sponsoring, we could.
Yeah, I mean, if my
We
grass looks great next year, we can plug this on every scatter. Like anytime we talk about a seed, we'll talk about grass seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there. So yeah, how about? I mean, how about yourself?
Oh man. So, and that's why I love I got to write a message on this because I'm not good at growing especially like the grass.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. And I think it's from all the things that are helpful in the process. Aside, I scatter great.
Yeah.
I mean, I can really
whip it.
I get good.
Yeah.
I get good
Throw it up in the air.
good
Let
coverage.
it naturally fall down.
There's very, I get very good enjoyment of the whimsicalness of that process. You feel good, you get it down, and then it really starts to tail off, right? Like the consistency of the watering, the straw, putting out the straw. You start putting out the straw right, and you're like, is this too much straw? Is this too little straw? Should I not be using straw?
Because you don't want straw.
Could I use
for grass?
Could I use straw's wheat?
Yeah. I'm just saying though, like then that's got to decompose before the grass really comes out. I dropped my pen.
So I'm not a good. I would take advice from a kid working at a store over me when it comes to growing grass. I think sod's pretty neat.
Sod is great, but you have to like really water that. You have to you can't just do good for a couple days and then that's it. So anyway.
Well, so moving into this parable.
So I think what. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, please do.
But I think one of the points that we're trying to make is, and one of the points that you make in the sermon is that sometimes things grow. They don't grow because we want them to in the timetable that we want them to. Right? They grow on their own miraculously through God's timeline, right?
Yeah,
not through ours,
which can be very frustrating to us.
So, if you think about, it's a parable about growing a seed, but it's a parable. It translates beyond the growth of a seed. So, thinking about a time where you wanted something to happen within your timetable
to mature more quickly,
and it just didn't. So you have an example maybe of something that you wanted it to happen, and it didn't, and then eventually it did.
Ever make fitness goals, Keith?
Never.
Hey man, we just went from grass planting to diet and exercise.
Yeah, I try not to because it won't happen. So I don't make fitness goals. I do like to keep a certain weight.
Yeah.
And so if I go over, I like to
You got
do
to do
190
something
to
about
210.
it.
Right?
Wow,
190 to 210.
we're even getting into numbers.
190 to 210. And if I get over 210, then I diet till I get down to like
buy a new scale.
yeah, till I get under 200, and then I kind of relax a little bit from there. So that's kind of I should be less probably, but that's kind of what I aim for.
Well, there's my example is this setting. I mean, even if that was I need to knock it back down.
Yeah.
I need to knock it back down to hit a number that feels more responsible for me.
Yeah.
And going after that, and I think that's a place I can easily get discouraged. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to reach a goal and just things aren't moving as fast as you'd like them to. Health speaking, blood pressure, cholesterol. Okay, yeah, diet and exercise, and then they're like, all right, we want you to come back, and we're gonna check this
a year from now.
We're gonna check this again in a year, and you're like, oh, well, better do about every other week to keep me motivated, and then they're like, well, no, we won't see, may not see any change for 3 months, and you're like, what?
And then you go back a year later, and it's like, well, it's slightly lower.
Yeah.
That's great, and you're like, slightly lower.
Slightly.
I've been doing all this stuff for a year.
I've been working hard. Where's my reward?
Yeah. I think of, this is a specific example from us, but I think it's universal too, right? I think anybody can relate, not maybe from themselves, but somebody that they know.
Kind of like a parable.
Think about having a baby, right? You got a couple. They've decided they want to have a baby, and next thing you know, a year goes by, 2 years go by. It took us 2 years, with that, it's frustrating, right? Like you have this goal in mind, you have this plan, you're all set up, you're ready, and you like, hey, let's have a baby. Yeah, okay. 2 years, no baby, right? That can be frustrating, and I think that happens to a lot of people in life.
I think that's more common than realized.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you have to. It's painful, but you have to realize that it's going to happen on its own time, right? Like it's going to happen or it's not going to happen, right? Like so yeah, that's kind of what I thought of, when you're talking about, it grows mysteriously on its own accord and appears in God's timeline, not yours, right? I think that's really hard for a lot of people, whether it's a diagnosis and they're trying to get through a treatment process and they just want whatever that is to go away, right? Or they want something, maybe they want a promotion in life, maybe they want, a bigger house or, whatever, right? Like, maybe they've got 5 kids in a 2-bedroom house, or something. Sometimes things just take time, and it's not on our timetable that you can't just force some things, right?
And I think I wanted to get in another question with this. Do you think kind of personality traits, or those that have done Strength Finders, Gallup Strengths, would know their talent themes? Something we use a lot, we talk about a lot here at First United Methodist Church. Do you think that plays into your processing of this parable? I know it does. I know it does for me in an optimistic way. I'm a positive person, strategic, adaptable. These those personality traits that I have. That I think lend themselves well to accepting this fact of it's out of my hands.
Sure.
It's on God's timetable.
Yeah.
Whereas I know others really struggle with that concept. So I think even as our unique humanness can create different tensions with this parable.
Yeah, because I'm a results-driven kind of person.
Okay.
So for me, I don't like to put effort into something without seeing the result. It's terrible. It's terribly difficult, right? So, like if we're shooting a video, or
these
right?
podcasts. I mean,
these podcasts.
It's our viewership's growing exponentially, and that's what keeps us doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Exponential.
I mean, the people wanted
when
video.
You go from 1 to 2, that's an exponential increase.
It is, and they wanted video, and now they're getting it.
Well, yeah, video. To all you video people out there. No, I mean, if I shoot a video, I don't want to hand that off to somebody else and not see the final project, right? Or if I shoot some photos or something like that. I want to see the final project, and I'm also kind of a hands-on person. I want to be involved in the whole project too. So I think this is like something very difficult for me personally, because you want to. It's like, going back to gardening, you want to feel like you have an impact on the result, and you do, whether you overwater, underwater, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's going to grow or it's not going to grow.
Yeah.
So that's a very difficult. It's easy to wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna redo the tile in the bathroom, and you get it all done. You're like, da-da! Like, I did it. But with a lot of these things in life, like it's not up to you, right? So I think that's a difficult, from my, background and who I am. It's hard to grasp that at times.
Yeah, and I think going back with talent themes, I think context might be an important one that people use. They can easily recognize whenever spiritual growth has happened to them, and they feel they're now experiencing fuller spiritual growth, maybe living into fruits of the Spirit, and they can point back to times in their life and people and individuals and conversations, and man, it really turned around whenever so and so planted that seed in me that and it took years, but now I see some fruits of it, or so and so said, they said that one thing to me, and it just played over and over and over in my mind, and it's grown into me sharing my story, me sharing my experiences, me sharing in ways that were shared with me to help improve for others, right?
Yeah.
Giving to others. And I think that's also a strength that helps, is if you have that retrospect as to I didn't get here on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't get to this place without the love, support, care, and input of others. I wasn't born on third base, to use a baseball terminology.
Sure. Yeah, and I think you kind of lend to.
Sorry, I think I screwed that up. Born on third base, but thought I hit a triple.
Yeah, that's the terminology. But yeah, and even taking that and taking it the next step, right, where you may never see the result in your life, right?
Correct. So
if you plant a tree, you may never see it fully grown. And, some trees grow for hundreds of years, right? So you may never see the result. And I think about in your sermon when you talked about, so last Sunday, we did a lot of local ministry stuff, and in the lobby, and they were all set up, and people were, trying to get connected to some of the local ministries. It was great. The vibe was awesome, right, for that time. And I was thinking about that. And I was really thinking about things like the Kearney Food Pantry, right? That started here in like a closet in the church, right? And then grew over time. Well, maybe some of those, some of the people that started it here may not see what it is today, and we may not see what it is 50 years from now.
Correct.
It just keeps growing. So the effort that you put into it, grows beyond you in your lifetime sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah, and I think that's where the positivity and optimism kicks in to play. I talk a little bit about my experience with launching a satellite venue church, right? And it had great growth, great early growth, and that was completely out of our control. That was just amazing, God's will and growth that folks were experiencing. It was a great thing to be a part of. But then we had, a couple of years of that, and then we had a global pandemic, and really changed the course of anything that we were doing there. But I find solace in did it really? Did the global pandemic really change, or was what we were supposed to do and plant the seeds that we planted? We have no idea.
Yeah, you have
We have no idea the seeds we planted. That's a cool thing about communities working and growing in faith together. And, Kearney, people move in and out of Kearney. You have relationships of folks move in and they come in from another town, another city, a different perspective, another state. And then a couple years later, they might move on. But those relationships and creating growth that happens there, and seeds that are planted, they take it with them.
Yeah.
And you can't quantify the impact that, a 150-year-old church like this, the spiritual seeds of growth, it's continually planted season over season over season, has impacted the world. I would love to see to be able to see a spider web chart of the places on this planet that spiritual seeds have been planted from, this organization right here in this community.
Yeah, I mean that's it really is an incredible thought, and I would leave everybody with kind of this, which is, no matter where you are in life, you may be in a really difficult situation, right? Like, and I'm thinking about something specific, but I won't get into it. But you may be in a really difficult spot in your life. Maybe you're older and you're in a nursing home now, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're a kid going to a new school because your family moved or something, right? You're in a new spot. It seems like difficult for you at the time, but you don't know what God's plan is for you in that moment. You might be exactly where He intends you to be because you may plant a seed in someone else at that time. And so you can't ever really be in a situation where you're not looking for the opportunity to plant your own seeds to let them grow, right?
Yeah, I think
that's key.
I think the truth you're saying is there's very, very, very few things that a human being actually can control.
Yeah.
And maybe the top of that list is the attitude with which you approach your situation.
Absolutely. And if you always come to it with humbleness and gratuity, right? In my mind, you can't go wrong.
I agree.
Well, awesome.
Hey,
Well,
was this a wrap?
that was good. I thought that was good.
I think that was a great discussion.
I think it was great. Hey, thanks for joining in.
Yeah.
This is Keith.
This is Mitch, and this was Layman's Term Podcast, and we're glad to have you with us.